Welcome back to the Remedial Film Class Podcast. I'm your host, Dan.
And I'm Travis.
And I am still George.
So, George, I have to pause just for a second and ask Travis a question. Travis.
Yes, sir.
How smug does George look right now, having guessed half this movie last week?
I don't know.
Does he remember that he guessed about half the plot of this movie last week?
I do.
Yes. So
I do remember
smug level at like 7.
Oh, that's not so bad.
Wait, smirk puts it up to 8.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice. It's the opposite of Friday 13th Part 8, where he was like right, but he was right like 3 weeks ago and had no idea that he was anywhere near it. Yeah.
Yeah, for the first time on the show, George, you were right and on time.
Or Part 9.
I nailed it.
Kind of.
Would you say that
It's
maybe
like you
that
saw it already?
No, maybe that means that this movie was predictable?
I don't know.
I hadn't even seen it. You told me the title and I told you what it was about.
I mean, they tell you in the trailer that he's for real. So it's not like you're going in not expecting it.
Okay.
Like in the trailer, they show him put his finger in the holy water and it starts to boil. So they weren't keeping it close to the vest.
Gotcha.
There were some twists that you were not supposed to expect. And we'll get to whether or not you expected those twists. But yeah, the conceit that he is working for the corporeal devil, kind of on Front Street from the art of the movie, the trailer. So, good
and
guess.
based on a book, so.
Yeah, good guess. But, good guess for George.
Yes.
Common knowledge for everyone else.
Essentially,
the complete
yes.
opposite of Hellraiser.
The opposite of Hellraiser, yes.
It's about a nanny. It's a nanny wearing leather.
It's like Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah.
Like
Hello.
It's like it's called Hellraiser, and then it described the plot of Mrs. Doubtfire.
He described the plot of like Problem Child.
Oh man, can we watch Problem Child? I love that
No.
movie.
Although it's got John Ritter, so I can
It
handle
does, and Michael Richards pre-cancellation.
Yes. Pre-cancellation. Who still holds up, because my kids love Seinfeld.
BC, before cancellation.
Before cancellation. Before wig out.
So George, you've seen an over-the-top Al Pacino performance. How are you feeling?
You mean in this movie?
In this movie, you've now seen like
Over the top?
This is the quintessential.
You've seen the over-the-top Al Pacino now.
It wasn't much worse than Heat.
Oh, what? This is like Nicolas Cage playing the character from Heat.
I mean, yeah.
Cut the chit-chat, a-hole.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought that Al Pacino only played gangsters, but I'm seeing, that he plays more than just that. But he plays it all the same way, just like you said.
What's funny is you haven't seen Dick Tracy, but he plays the villain in Dick Tracy. And he basically plays a real-life version of that villain mixed with a little bit of Scent of a Woman, which is a little subtle, except for a few of the hoo-ah, like the big iconic moments. So yeah, he's at 11 in this movie. Definitely.
And where is he at 11?
Everywhere. They don't see me coming.
I mean, I really like this movie. I'm going to put that on Front Street.
I do too.
And I really enjoy his performance, but I mean, we're in Nicolas Cage territory at this point. So this is what we were referencing when we watched The Rock, and I said, okay, you've got to see some Pacino in this same mode to realize that, like, this is a mode that people get into sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's a time frame, too, because this is 97, right? When was The Rock?
96.
Yeah. And Keanu Reeves passed up doing Speed 2 to do this movie because he didn't want to get pigeonholed into these action films.
Yeah, and good for him because this is way better than Speed 2.
Yes.
Whoa.
Although his acting...
So, George, what do you think about Keanu Reeves with a southern sort of Floridian accent and Charlize Theron, who is like, South African with a southern sort of Floridian accent? How are you doing on the accent front, man?
Accents didn't bother me at all. They seemed fine.
How familiar are you with the different Southern accents?
Not very.
I can tell because this didn't bother
Were
me
they
at all.
terrible?
Oh my!
Yeah, they weren't that good.
Oh, they were questionable. There was more Georgia than Florida,
Mm-hmm.
which is a pain. I mean, Northern Florida.
It's like they were from
regional.
Gainesville.
Yeah, Gainesville's
could-
not.
Gainesville's like dead
south.
center.
It's not.
You could excuse it, I guess, but
Yeah,
in the great
it's like
scheme
2 hours
of
north
accents,
of Orlando.
Yeah, I'm not familiar enough with Florida.
Well, I drove to Gainesville from Orlando. It's about 2 hours north of Orlando.
Yeah,
That's where your sister
and
used to
you're
live.
talking about 2 hours north of here, and we're in New Jersey where we are, and it's fucking Al Pacino, up there, the chopper.
Oh, that's a chopper. That sounded a little too moist. I was concerned.
It's got COVID.
It's it's a little humid up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like just 2 hours away from here, the accents are crazy. The Brooklyn accents and
Yes.
Long Island and
Long Island, Bayonne,
Manhattan.
Secaucus,
Yeah, they sound completely different up there.
Newark.
So I can see it, but yeah, I'm not familiar with Florida accents. I liked what's her name?
Charlize Theron. I knew you would.
She was good.
She was almost brand new in this movie. This isn't introducing her. I think she did one other movie, 2 Days in the Valley. So this is like her second movie. So
Yeah.
she's new, and the other girl is brand new, who's now famous. The heck's her last name?
The other girl?
Yeah, the seductress,
Oh, Connie Nielsen, Wonder Woman's mom.
the sister.
Oh, the redhead?
Yes, the redhead.
Yeah.
She kind of went on to do some
There's
stuff.
the redhead, the blonde, and the DA from Law and Order. Right?
DA from Law and
The
Order?
DA from Law and Order was in this.
Yeah, I don't watch Law and Order.
Okay.
Dun dun.
What are you, your dad?
No,
I didn't see Belzer in here. No.
Yeah.
Belzer's from the other one.
No, he likes the hell.
Matlock.
No, yeah, he does. Diagnosis Murder.
Yeah,
That was
Dick Van
one
Dyke.
of his favorites.
Woof.
But no, now he watches. It's not CSI. It's NCIS.
NCIS.
He likes NCIS.
Yes, that's the Belzer, I believe.
Which is like, oof. But hey, Keanu Reeves was pretty terrible.
Now you've seen him
thought-
in something before. You're familiar with Keanu Reeves.
I'm familiar with Keanu Reeves from The Matrix.
You're not familiar with Bill and
And
Ted's.
I am
Okay, so
familiar
that's
with Bill
this
and
is
Ted.
more Bill and Ted's
Yes,
Keanu.
But that was my range for Keanu. It was
Yeah.
Bill and Ted and The Matrix. That's what I've
Okay.
seen him in. And then I saw this, obviously.
He
just
gets
now.
a second shot at this because he does a movie called Constantine, which is a DC comic book character
Mhm.
that deals with the devil and it's kind of like Hellboy. It deals with the occult, and he actually is a lot better in that movie. He's not as young. He's not as. Whoa.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah,
Did you say he was doing action films before this?
he did Speed. Did you ever see Speed?
I don't think so.
That's probably something you should see, just for reference.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
a pretty good movie.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
Huh?
it's one
I don't
I'm
think
not
I've
a-
ever seen it.
That's one
It's-
I'm not a huge fan of.
I enjoy some of the one-liners. Dennis Hopper. I'm a fan of Dennis Hopper, and he's in it. But he's a little, and Sandra Bullock. I like her. So
One thing I did like about Keanu Reeves, I always like to watch Keanu Reeves handle a firearm. Every time he picks up a
he's
firearm,
very good at
he
it.
follows all the rules. He's spot on.
Although I don't know if he was back then.
Well, that's why I asked if
yeah.
he was doing action movies, because if he was just acting like he knew how to handle a firearm, then he's did a damn good job. But it seems to me very likely
Yeah,
that
he
he knows
probably
what he's doing.
life trained.
Yeah. For the 10 seconds that he handled a firearm in this movie.
What were your thoughts on the turning point?
Which
Like,
turning point?
When it went from being a John Grisham like law film
Mm-hmm.
to the changing room, where they actually reveal that these things are they're demons. Because the effects are a little suspect, a little 90s.
Yeah.
But it's
they're
not
brief.
too bad.
They don't
They're
linger on
brief.
them because they know what they
Right.
look like.
Although it's Rick Baker. I wanted to talk about this. Rick Baker did the design of the demons. I think he did the full like practical effects where it's finalized, but it's so CGI that I don't know how much of it he did. I'd have to see some video because they're really cool design. That whole morphing, I'm a fan of that because that kind of makes it eerie and makes it more supernatural and not in your face. I like it more when it's not in your face.
Yeah, I like it when they don't give you enough time to focus on it.
Mm-hmm.
So you know you saw something creepy, but you didn't get time to
that
pick it
dream
apart.
she had with the baby, that was crazy. Like where she
where the child's like
she found out she couldn't have babies
playing with a
with
bit
her
of
innards. Yeah.
I was
Playing with what? Her entrails?
no. What's his name? What's the director's name? The Fly.
The Cronenberg toy.
Where the child's playing with a bit of Cronenberg.
All right, who
in the other room?
Who invited Cronenberg to the baby shower? Here, play with this carcass.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
To answer your question, Dan, the effects, the changing, I probably could have done without it. To be honest with you, I think if I was, writing or directing this movie, I probably would have kept the demons like more human, so that there's more kind of like you would spend the whole movie not being sure if this is actually
right, like the
demonic or not.
Omen.
Yeah, I would not have done any of the morphing stuff. Although it looked okay.
I mean, it goes over the top at the end, so it's kind of like I think they were just kind of preparing you.
Yeah,
for
I could have done.
reveal
I
at
could
the
have
end.
done without all of it. Although I did like the effect when I should really learn these people's names, but the DA from Law and Order, when she's putting on the dress, and there's like the effect is like it looks like hands underneath
her skin. Yeah,
that was so cool.
Yeah,
but I could have done without it in this movie.
Right.
But when I saw the effect, I was like, duh, that's creepy and awesome.
I know back then I bought into it because it was so subtle. Like even when the homeless guys
I didn't
chase him down, it
feel
was
like it was subtle at all.
No,
not as
I
subtle
mean,
as
what I mean is they weren't like fully applianced skins chasing anybody as a demon. Like it was like normal people, and then all of a sudden they get like
it was like a flash,
almost like the what the conspiracy theorists will call like lizard people, where it's like all of a sudden they lose the control of their hiding and something glitches, like an eyelid blinks the wrong way or whatever. Yeah. It's almost like that where you see it and you're like,
they lick their eye backs and they're like, oh shit, I forgot.
I'm supposed to be controlling this.
Didn't even get 15 minutes without lizard people. For those keeping track.
Just saying. I'm not saying I believe in them. I'm saying that effect is much better than...
Says, for those people out there that believe in lizard people, those people are way over the top.
I said conspiracy theory.
In my opinion. But
it's just cool.
One of the things they do in this movie is they don't have a ton of third-party verification, which was the thing we talked about in The Omen, where like this could be all happening in Charlize Theron's mind. Marianne. Yes. She could just be losing her shit until you get the murder of Eddie Barzoon, played by actual criminal Jeffrey Jones.
I'm surprised we didn't get 15 minutes in before Dan made the correlation between the Craig T. Nelson character and Donald Trump. Because, I mean, it was...
What are you talking about?
Well, they used Trump's hotel, his penthouse.
What? Are you sure that was his? I couldn't tell from all the gilding.
No, exactly.
Gilded like a mofo.
She even mentions his name. The one demon mentions his name at the party.
Yeah, I can imagine him saying, like, listen, you can use my suite, but you got to mention my name in the movie. It's all
make an appearance.
You got to make sure I'm not the one that does the shooting, because that would look bad for my image. But you can make me the guy who's in a war with the New York Daily News or whatever.
But this was 97.
I just don't want anyone making movies in my place that are losers. It's like only the best movie actors can be in my place.
He should have stuck to Home Alone 2, if you ask me.
Losers.
Well, he didn't actually make an appearance, and the penthouse is gaudy enough to pull it off. So And you saved a lot of money on set design and art production.
Losers.
Did you catch what they said about him at the party, though?
Yeah, something about Zuckerberg.
It's about
said he
Mort Zuckerman, who is, I think, the New York
Zuckerman.
Daily News editor.
Okay.
Or owner. None of those guys actually do any work, but he owns the New York Daily News, and I guess he was feuding with Trump back then. He's still feuding with Trump even up through like 2016 and beyond. So
egos will fight.
I don't know.
Well, he's a loser. He's a loser
losers.
terrorist. You're a loser terrorist. You're a 4. You wish you were me. Who's Craig T. Nelson?
He played the
He played Colin, the one who had
Colin.
Colin Tower and murdered his wife and
coach.
had a bunch of exes. But yeah, he's famous for
Okay.
the show Coach.
Had his mistress lie, and then
Yeah, I know who
Yeah.
you're talking about now. The builder. The,
The
triple
builder,
murder
yes.
guy with
the mogul.
He's the dad in
Builds
Poltergeist.
stuff.
That's where we've seen
Yes,
him
the
before.
dad from Poltergeist.
Okay. And he's supposed to be the Trump character.
He's an analog.
What were we talking about before we got off track?
Craig T. Nelson.
Yeah.
Who I love.
And the devil.
You can see why I said this was a guilty pleasure for me, this movie. Because I knew George wouldn't like it. But I was hoping.
We didn't actually ask George if he liked the movie or not.
No, he said he could.
He said he could have done without seeing the effect of the hands under the skin. He hasn't actually commented on the
Yeah.
movie yet. George,
Yeah, okay.
20 minutes
Yeah.
in, did you like this movie?
Not really.
Were you entertained during the process of observing this movie? I mean,
It had
were you
potential.
bored during this movie? I mean, that's really the question.
It was very long. It was a very long movie, and I felt the length. So I guess maybe a little bit. What? Oh yeah, I felt the length. Hey, listen.
Hey now.
Yeah, cut that. Drop it.
Like his haw?
Yeah. No, was I bored? I don't know. Yeah, at times. I don't know. I don't feel like it was really well written or well executed, but I feel like it had potential. That's the thing. Like, the story of an attorney who's a defense attorney and that, like, just the reality that you have to have flexible morals to do that, right? It's necessary. Don't get me wrong. Like, we need defense attorneys. Like, I don't know what we'd do without them, but like, in order to do that job, it's like, that's tough if you have, strong morals, I guess. And then, that coupled with, having to defend. He actually never really defended the devil. Like I said, it was really he
was
worked
just
for the
defending
devil,
the client list,
defending the client, the devil's clients, basically.
which were all just guilty.
Yeah, but here's the thing. But that lawyer, defense attorney kind of struggle with morals, paired with having to defend the devil, is a cool concept. Except for, I think, without all the supernatural morphing stuff, and it's more kind of like, everything looks more normal and more everyday, but definitely not right. There's something not right about this. It feels gross. It is gross. Would have been a better way to do this movie.
I like the idea of making it all in his wife's head. But then
I don't really like. Okay, so
then you don't get the Pacino performance.
Yeah,
Unless he's truly the devil.
I don't like that idea either, that it's all in the wife's head, because I feel like, and this is contrary to what I said before about Wendy and the Wendy theory and The Shining, but I don't think I would like to watch a 2.5-hour movie that is all the imagination of a crazy person, unless
Don't watch Fight Club.
I don't like that movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen it. I don't like it. Unless it's done really, really well, like The Shining. But Or I don't know. Maybe I would like it if it was. I don't know. But no, I don't think that like the whole like watching an entire movie and then like the main character wakes up and nothing happened. It's like, oh, God, seriously.
But that's what
Like-
happened in this movie. But at least they did. Like I always, and I don't want
Okay.
to bring up The Walking Dead.
All right.
But I always said it would be cool if he woke up and then it all happened anyway. Like to
If
me,
he woke up from his coma in The Walking Dead and it all starts happening
right?
just the way it did in episode 1,
Yes,
then yes, that would be
that
cool.
I would be fine. That's the only
Because
way I would be
that's
fine
like
with it.
because like all of this stuff didn't happen, but
It
it's
will.
going to.
Right.
See, and I would argue that that's when they would start playing "I Got You, Babe" by Sonny and Cher, and I would
I got
eject
you,
the
babe,
disc
got
directly
you,
into the wastebasket. Like,
I
have you ever
got you,
seen
babe.
have you ever seen Homer watch Paint a Wagon or Paint Your Wagon on Simpsons?
No.
He rents it by accident, not realizing it's a musical. And after about like 2 minutes of song, he gets up and he's holding a trash can and hits eject, and the VHS flies directly into the trash.
Oh, Marge, they're singing again.
That would have been me. I would argue that this movie, in a very late 90s, proto CGI, pre-Matrix way, finds a way to bridge a bunch of the things we've talked about on this show, kind of bridges them into one movie, and then gives you the opportunity to play along and like, is it in her head? Is it not in her head? Oh, it's definitely not in her head because that guy just got beat to death by demon homeless people. But up until that point in the movie, you could argue it is in her head, and the isolation from the Shining and the, scary neighbors and all this is causing her to lose her mind. The stress of not being able to have a child causing her to, take on additional stress. But then you also have like the 7 element where you have all the different like impacts of sin, but in this case, it's the sin that impacts Keanu Reeves' character, which is an interesting turn on what 7 did. So, at first it's his own like, vanity and his need to win, which drives him to do these horrible things. But then they kind of flip it around in the post twist where you find out that maybe this was all his like own religiously informed fear of what would happen to him, right? Like that, it's more than just like the movie didn't happen yet. Like you can justify the entire duration of the middle of this movie as like a split-second projection of where his soul would go if he allowed himself to continue on the path he's on because he's so informed by his religious upbringing. But then to allow it to then turn around and have, the Al Pacino character, which is referenced earlier being connected to that journalist character, have him pop up again and be like, he thinks he got away, but he ain't got away yet,
Because they don't see me coming.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's as bad as it should be. I think it's not a great movie. It's pretty silly. And if you wanted to just take the piss out of it for an hour, you could, because there's a lot of silliness in this movie. But
Yes.
I think it does more than I expect it to when I realize how silly it is. It's a real mixed bag.
It's a good way to put it. Yeah.
It's
That's
better than
kinda
Saw.
That's kind of what I was saying. Like the movie itself, like not really, like the execution not great, but it has potential. It has a lot of potential.
I think if the actor was different, like if it was originally it was a Brad Pitt movie, but I'm not saying Brad Pitt, but I mean somebody who can take that kind of material and really mold it. I think it would have been.
I don't think it was
better.
the actor. I don't think it was the actor.
I just never got behind the character because it just was so. Hey, dude! It was like almost like watching Bill and Ted's second movie where he represents the devil, man. Like it just to me, I wasn't a big fan.
It's hard for me to be critical of Keanu Reeves because I really like.
I love him as a person.
The guy.
Yes, but back then,
like I don't know anyone who doesn't love the guy.
and I like
He's
him now.
Awesome.
I like him now as John Wick and all. Like he's definitely grown on me. But these first couple years, like from '94
not great
to 2000, when did Matrix come out? Like
2000.
99, 2000. Yeah, that's when that was his Travolta in Pulp Fiction moment.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I'm glad that he didn't decide in 1999. Yeah, you know what? I'm no good at this. I'm gonna do something else. I'm glad.
I'm gonna do romantic comedies now.
Right, exactly.
Then we don't get the Matrix,
or just not act at all. Like I'm glad that he didn't give up and he became Neo and John Wick and all that. But this movie, not great, but
it's better than you're giving it credit for, but it's definitely dated, so I can understand why you're not.
Yeah.
Like when it came out, it was underrated, but it was one of those movies that if all the other, because it came out, I think in the summer where a lot of movies came out in 97, if something else was sold out, yeah, let's go see Keanu Reeves. And you go see it.
Yeah.
And then you're like pleasantly surprised because you're like, I wasn't planning on seeing this. I didn't drive to the theater to see this, but it's pretty good. And Pacino delivers 11 minutes of just gold at the end for, people who like that kind of crescendo, which I loved it back then. It's over the top, definitely.
I'd say it's probably gold-plated doo-doo, in my opinion. But let's talk about the end a little bit, because we really kind of like glossed over the fact that, Dan was explaining what, his theory of the movie and how
the bathroom
it's just him being religiously, with a religious upbringing, and what would happen if he defended this guy, and that's pretty much the whole movie is what he's thinking might happen, right? And which, thought crossed my mind too. But at the very end, the very, very end, when the reporter is, talking to him, like basically talking him up, even though like he's about to be disbarred, and he's like, oh, but you're going to be blah, 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 and this, that, and the other thing, and like
stroking his ego again.
Exactly.
Right.
He's stroking his ego, and I'm like, there it is. That's his weakness. That's his
that's
whatever.
His sin.
Like that's it's like
pride.
And me as a viewer, it was really good, because me as a viewer, I'm saying, with everything that you just learned, Keanu Reeves, you need to recognize that right now and be like, nah.
See, that's
and leave. And that would have been good, because he would have saved himself like through that. But instead you get Keanu Reeves kind of like leaving it open, like, yeah, okay. And then the reporter morphing into what would have been fine is if, like, cut from that to another scene, a little short thing where the reporter is in the same room as, having a drink with.
So you just don't like the fact that he's disguised as this reporter?
Yeah. Like,
why is that though?
I don't know. I think it's like
somebody who's religious.
The morphing thing was like not good to me. Like,
well, maybe the technology's not there, but as the character of Satan,
I don't think it was
he
the
can
technology.
portray
I don't think
what you want to see. Like, I didn't take it as he thought all that stuff while looking in the mirror, and he watched his entire life happen to his suicide after he found out his dad was Satan. I honestly think all that happened, and this is a do-over. And no matter what, the master manipulator of Satan will always figure out a way to bring you to through free will, to bring you where he wants you. And if you're not strong-willed and you're driven by your vices, or you're driven by your love of whatever sin that you embrace, for him it's his pride, it's vanity, even a little bit of coveting. Like he wants
a little bit,
more of what everybody else has. He's living kind of in a trailer in Florida, and he wants to be in Manhattan. He doesn't want to be in Manhattan, but once he sees it, that he wants that lifestyle. So a lot of lust. There's a lot of sin with that character.
Yeah.
And I think that at the end, that just shows you that the devil character figures out whatever way he needs to get you to where he wants you to be. So, yeah, it's open-ended. Did all that happen inside his head? And then it was like a moment where that was all his religious oppression and whatever was basically leading him? Or did that really happen, and this is the do-over? And no matter what, no matter how many do-overs, no matter how many mulligans you get, you're still going to go down that path, because he's a master manipulator, and he's going to take you where he wants you to go.
Well, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying with one stipulation, like you're saying, it's the devil, or Pacino is going to continue trying to get you over and over and over
Like
again.
Dan said, like Groundhog Day kind of thing.
I don't think that it can be that.
Right, because you would
it
get
would
a
undermine
mulligan.
the free will thing. It undermines the free will
That's
thing.
exactly what I was saying. Like
That makes sense.
The devil doesn't force you to do anything. It's the free will thing. They have a whole conversation about the free will thing. He just puts people in situations for them to do the things he wants
what they're
going to
do. Right.
Yeah, and he's straight up, open with Keanu Reeves' character about what his sin is and why he likes it so much and blah, 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 blah. And then I thought it was really beautiful how at the end the reporter was appealing to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm seeing it happen, and I'm like, oh, I'm getting this. I understand what I'm picking up what he's putting down, and Keanu Reeves needs to realize this, and he doesn't.
Because it's packaged in a different way.
Yes, and he doesn't.
Right.
And then the reporter morphs into the devil.
But he was the devil the whole time, because you have that whole conversation between Pacino and Keanu Reeves where he references directly the mannerisms of the journalist that kind of puts him up to going in and going balls out and defending the bad guy at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he gives you a hint there that maybe he was involved in that too. And then he pay it off at the end when he actually is.
Yeah.
I mean, I can buy into both theories. I like the idea that was his thoughts. And obviously in our faith, we don't believe you're going to get a do-over. You're not going to get a second chance at that decision.
Yeah, you can certainly daydream. That's fine.
Exactly. So, I mean, that makes more sense from a faith-based situation.
In some form, this movie is a meditation.
Okay.
It's a Keanu Reeves meditation on his personal spiritual life.
Yeah. And I didn't like the fact that his mother actually, he fathered a child.
So bad.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know about that.
And it's like, and then the devil wants him to, Pacino wants him to, make a baby with his half sister. What's with that, man?
How do you make? Yeah, we should have definitely stuck more realistic, like in the Omen, where he wanted him to impregnate a jackal. That would have been a lot more realistic. I mean, you're dealing with supernatural stuff, so it's like,
right.
What you pick and choose as the things you like or don't like. These guys had to make a choice, and they went with one that was a lot more grounded than what we're used to seeing.
And if you notice, he wasn't making it out of there. Once she gets impregnated, she was setting up for sacrifice. She was setting up daggers and stuff. So,
you mean like?
So I'm wondering if he was on Keanu Reeves' character was on his way out anyway, after the deed was done.
Like praying mantis style.
Yeah, because she was like a Basic Instinct. Like she was setting up sacrificial daggers and stuff.
Yeah, I know.
On that altar.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not going to, unless they were going to sacrifice the baby, but the baby would have to gestate.
No, they couldn't do that.
So, yeah. So I'm curious about that, how that was supposed to
You guys
go.
didn't like the idea that he would appeal to the weakness of the mother as this young, naive, religious girl to like flex his religiosity by knowing all the Bible stuff as a way to like weaken her defenses? Like that's dark, but like it's pretty good.
Oh yeah. No, I was fine with that. I just didn't like him being like the actual seed of Satan.
I liked what you're saying, Dan. I liked that he flexed his Bible knowledge to manipulate a young Bible girl, because if you recall, that is exactly what the devil does in the Bible. Right. When
it's a little self-referential, isn't it?
Jesus goes in the desert to be tempted.
Yeah, he says you can have all this.
Well, the devil uses scripture,
right,
to tempt Jesus.
No, yeah, that I'm fine with. It gave it a little bit of gave his mother a lot of depth and shows that she's weak as well. But I have an issue with the whole, consummating and him being the product of that.
I have an issue with the mother just seeing Pacino and not immediately going, yo, bro, just FYI, that's your dad, and he's not a good dude.
Right.
I don't know, man. Greatest shame of her life. She's probably a little overwhelmed.
I didn't have a problem with her hiding it because it made sense.
I did.
Because it goes against everything that she represents.
Okay.
In front of her son. I mean, basically proving her son right, that because he's kind of a fall away, kind of mocking her religion.
Mm-hmm.
And then if she's like, oh, I had this one night stand with this guy I met in New York City, and he's your dad.
I have a question. At what point do the devil's employees become demons?
I don't know. They could always be demons. Because he never changed. I want to call him Will. What the hell is his character name?
Milton?
I don't know.
The Keanu Reeves character.
Who cares? It's Pacino and Reeves.
Lomax. He's Lomax.
Yeah, Lomax. I was looking for his first name, but
Kevin Lomax.
Kevin.
Oh, I love when he signs the he's signing like a document and he just like writes the K and you can tell that like that's how he writes.
It's his
K.
Keanu
Like
K.
that's his K. Like that's his K. He's been writing it his whole life.
That's my K, dude.
I'm like, dude, he's about to sign. Like I was waiting for it to just be like K E A, like, like
Circle K.
Just thought it was funny. I'm like,
weird things happen.
He's been writing that
K
his entire life. You can tell. It's natural.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Way too much.
Did you guys catch the John Milton reference?
Well, yeah, because his last name is Milton.
And his first name is John, just like John Milton, the author that wrote Paradise Lost.
Paradise Lost.
Yeah. So they didn't reach too far, No. They didn't hide that one too much. They just let that one be.
I don't even know the plot of that book. I know it's a classic and I probably should, but
go Wikipedia that and let us know how it goes.
Next week's episode, Dan connects Paradise Lost to Batman The Dark Knight.
Exactly. Now, a couple of things we didn't talk about with the cast and crew. The director, Taylor Hackford, spent the 90s making music videos like you do, but also directed the movie Ray, which is like a real movie.
He did An Officer and a Gentleman.
Yeah, very famous movie.
And Against All Odds, which was the 80s.
And then he took a little break and did a Lionel Richie video. He didn't do that many music videos, really. It's just a Phil Collins and a Lionel Richie, but
that's pretty
once
good
again,
resume.
Those mid-90s directors, man, everybody was...
Well, it was easy work because in the 80s, the videos were not that good. And then the 90s, once Michael Jackson started showing how you could make a video in the late 80s, then they started getting real directors in there.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, we can make mini movies.
And you get Al Pacino on a subway describing a very specific scene to that dude that was so threatening.
That's
my
a
good
favorite
scene.
None of the demons were on shopping carts. That was good.
Yeah.
I like that.
And that car hit, when they hit that Agent Weaver or whatever, that is a good car hit. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I wonder
that
if
ranks
the
up there with
survived that.
That ranked up there with the nanny in the Omen. Damien.
Yep.
All for you.
And
then the yank. Yeah. In your face.
Listen, I like the idea. It's got a lot of potential. Yeah.
Potential.
Just didn't really execute.
Yeah, this was almost a Schumacher film, Dan. Did you know that?
I believe it. It looks like that era of Schumacher.
No, well, it would have been more like Flatliners.
8mm kind of.
8mm. Well, Flatliners was kind of supernatural.
I've never seen Flatliners. It's got a new release coming out, and I'm tempted to blind buy it, but people keep telling me, no, you won't like it, and they're probably right.
No, I mean, Lost Boys is probably his best.
Yeah, that's one we're going to need to see, I think.
Yeah.
On this
but
show.
Flatliners is pretty good, but I think Flatliners kind of was underrated because it came out after Lost Boys. But it has a good cast, and it's a good premise. I don't think you would hate it. I just think it's definitely, I don't know. It deals
Maybe
with,
a rental more than a buy.
maybe give it a try. Yeah. See if you like it. I don't think it's worthy of a 4K. But it's cool. I mean, it's Kevin Bacon. Julia Roberts.
The
It's got
Baconator.
good cast.
Well, let's tell George what he's watching next week.
Next week, we're going to watch a movie.
A movie.
A movie.
An iconic movie for people my age.
Is it?
Oh, man.
We're going to watch Wild Things.
Wild Things.
Wild Things. Don't rent Where the Wild Things Are. It's totally different.
The discussion will seem very disjointed.
It's a child's book.
It
Isn't
is not a child's book.
Wild Things.
Wild Things.
You make my heart sing.
Yes. So
You make everything.
you have no idea what that is,
groovy.
right?
What?
Wild Things.
No. Ciro.
Interesting. Well, that'll be fun.
Ciro.
Going in blind.
Mi amigo.
This I saw multiple times in the theater
I imagine you did.
because I was working there when it came out.
Wild Things.
So we're talking 90s.
Okay.
Was that like 95, 96?
Is it
No,
about
it's
demons?
later than that.
There's a 98.
Do people morph in it?
There's no morphing.
Okay, good.
You might morph. 98.
98.
Hey.
Yeah, I was just about to leave. Just about to leave. That's when the shit hit the fan in the old theater world.
It's because you kept spending all your time in the theater watching Wild Things. You're supposed to be working.
Off hours.
There's a TV show, Pen 15, on Hulu, I believe. It's a very strange show with a very odd premise, but it's two adult actors, adult-aged actors, women in their 30s, playing themselves as middle schoolers, but the rest of the cast is age-appropriate, so it's like these two 30-year-old ladies going to middle school.
So it's like Billy Madison.
Yeah, but they're playing 12-year-olds.
Okay.
So it's like the episode of Rick and Morty where Rick transfers his consciousness into a younger clone of himself so that he can go to middle school.
Except that they still look like 30-year-old women acting like 12-year-olds. It's very strange. It's not a show that I ever would have thought that I'd like. And in fact, it's wonderful. And I highly recommend it. They have an entire episode about Wild Things. And it's perfection. So
I'm looking forward to him being introduced to a new actor. Not the one we talked about, but the other one in it.
yeah, I'm interested to see how that goes. Plus, he'll see some familiar faces.
Yeah.
Wild Things.
All things.
Well, thank you for joining us on the Remedial Film Class podcast. As always, you can find us at facebook.com/remedialfilmpod. Stick around for a little post-credits notes on The Prestige. We'll get our follow-up we promised last week, and maybe a relevant conversation to next week, and maybe not. We don't know, because George doesn't know what Wild Things entails, but we talk about Merkins. Stick around. Hey, before we leave, did you guys ever rewatch Prestige? Do you want to go back through those?
I didn't rewatch it, but I did do a lot of thinking about it.
Where are you at with Prestige right now? How you feeling?
I like it more now that I've sat down and
me too.
rewatched
Me too.
some
I
stuff.
like again what you said, basically that they don't cheat. It's a very
No, it's right there.
Yeah.
It's not even like Sixth Sense cheat. Like, they didn't cheat in that movie either, but they kind of played with camera angles and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And this one really doesn't do that. At all.
They used disguises, but that was part of.
But they showed you something was weird about him.
Yeah, of course.
Like he's a guy in disguise. You knew that right away.
You know he's a guy in disguise.
Right.
So
the makeup wasn't that great. It looked like definitely a disguise.
Yeah.
So
you knew it was a guy in disguise. He had to be in disguise. But you had to put 2 and 2 together.
And the 100 body stuff made more sense the second time watching it too.
So gnarly. Especially when you really consider that, like, you as Hugh Jackman Prime are going to drown. Like, there's no chance that you're going to teleport. So you are putting yourself through a torturous death with the hope that your clone gets to do the next one, and it's the one that's worth it. Like, that's, ooh, yikes.
But what it does not address is how a clone, like, they never discuss this when he's hanging with Tesla or anything, like, obviously because they're using cats and hats, but they never really establish if everything transfers. Like, in the clone world, even though you might be a clone of the person, you don't have the same behaviors, the same life experiences or whatever.
Well, that's
so
why I
you're not
don't
gonna be
like using the word
person.
clone, because it's not
Right.
exactly accurate. It's a duplicate.
It's a copy.
It is a true duplicate. And that's why they show you the hats and then the cat. And then you have that quick interaction when he duplicates himself and shoots himself. You know, the idea that when he becomes aware of where he is as this duplicate, immediately he's like, oh God, no, now you're going to shoot me because I know exactly where you were going with this before you copied yourself.
Right.
So it's there. It's not beaten over the head, but, you know, it's there for you to mine.
Yeah, that little sequence where he duplicates himself and then shoots himself, and the reaction of the duplicate before the duplicate is shot, it definitely does some explaining without actually saying anything.
Yeah,
which is cool. I like to see things like that.
Yeah, no,
especially
I'm a fan.
Especially second time around. It is not that I watched it a second time, but I've thought of it. Like I said, I did some thinking about it. I like it. I like the movie. I do.
It's one of those movies that I would watch multiple times, but maybe not a full sit down. Like, just kind of pop it in chapter jump.
Yeah.
Big fan. Good pick, Dan.
Yay, finally. Took me from No Country till now to find another one that was good, but we did it.
Well, I mean, those two were mainstream movies and everything else was kind of like niche. So
niche what? No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to get somebody to. I mean, what was it like? I don't know. The more I think about it, the hitchhiking movie,
Road Games,
still sucked. But it at least had some charm.
Road Games was good.
Road Games rocks, man.
It sucked for me because I was looking forward to the killer being cool, and he wasn't.
Nah.
And I wanted the movie to have the same feel as the first 10 minutes, and it didn't. So it was a bait and switch. I wasn't happy about it. A little angry.
Well, you might have a little bit of that.
That happens to me all the time.
Yeah. George has liked 3 of the 100 movies we've watched.
Well, because I think a lot of times I go into a movie not knowing what to expect at all.
Yeah, but that got you to a good place with a few of them.
A few of them. You're right. But I mean, I think some of them might have been better if I had known. Like, if you had at least had said, like, okay, so this is a serious movie, or this is, the effects in this are not going to be great, but what we're looking for, what you're paying attention to this movie for, is for this kind of stuff. Then I might enjoy it while I'm watching it more.
Or maybe you just
the way we do it now
to like, hey, this movie, what is this movie doing? Hey, I guess this is what this movie's doing.
Yeah, I could do that. And
I think
and
going in with an open mind.
Sometimes, a lot of times, I have those realizations when you're explaining to me why I should like the movie. I have those, I come to the realization on the mic while we're doing this, which I guess is cool.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about, like, Basic Instinct, we didn't tell you, hey, there's one scene that's become really famous because people are, uptight and shocked easily by human anatomy. And then the rest of the movie is no longer remembered. And you'd be like, oh, yeah, there was that scene. And the movie was okay. But instead you went in like, hey, this movie rocked. Oh, that's the scene that got famous, So that
40
was
minutes in the episode, we mentioned the scene.
Yeah, no. When I watched that movie and the scene came up, it was I didn't know about the scene, but when it happened, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
But also, there was so much more in that scene than just that I was enthralled with.
Yeah.
So
can I jump in on that comment, because that's what Dan said. that scene was not famous because of people were uptight and it was like anatomy situation. It was big because it was a A-list actress showing full frontal in a mainstream movie that you didn't have to get on Cinemax. Like, it was a big deal.
Well,
It had
but it's a
nothing to
big
do with-
deal because in this country, we're very uptight with nudity. Where if that scene had happened in a European movie with a famous A-list European actress, nobody in Germany is going to bat an eye. That's going to
But
be a
it's
16
still
rated movie.
It's a famous Germany actress. Like, it's not mainstream. It's just mainstream in Germany.
Well, I think you're betraying your like Americentric perspective.
No, I just think in America, that situation. I mean, we've had a lot of nude scenes in movies. Plenty of them were iconic. Go back to Bo Derek. You can do Fast Times. You can do, every decade or every year there was like a big movie that had nudity in it where it was like, oh, wow, that's hot. But then, like, this movie was iconic for a different reason. It wasn't because she really didn't show much. If you think about it, couldn't really see detail.
This is where we need a video podcast because he just said that. They didn't really see much, and I was like, what?
Maybe in 4K it looks a lot better, but I mean when you're watching on VHS, no pun intended, it's kind of fuzzy.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it's not
but
like
I mean
you're
that's
seeing
what I'm trying
full
to tell you,
detail.
man. Like,
Yeah.
that is an American identity thing that you have like a girl take her top off in a movie in the 80s, and it's an iconic scene because a girl in a movie took her top off. But like
No, not a girl, that girl.
well, but in Germany they have that girl, but she's
but
not.
it's still Germany. It's not Demi Moore. It's no. Do you understand though? It's like,
are you saying that
German actresses are not big in America?
No,
But German actresses
American
are big
actresses
in
are
Germany.
big in Germany.
But their American actresses are big around the world. Like, if it's Gal Gadot, all right, Gal Gadot does a nude scene, which she has. She does a topless scene in a movie. It's going to be a bigger deal than if Francine Soir did a topless scene in some French movie.
And is this because Gal Gadot is an American actress? Noted American actress Gal Gadot.
She's famous here because she was sometimes I can't argue with him. I know she's from Israel. I know she's an actress from overseas. I'm not an idiot. That's why I'm on here, I hope.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is she's famous for being Wonder Woman, which is a kid's character. She became huge in American movies playing Wonder Woman, and that's why she's famous. Otherwise, she'd be some chick in an Israeli movie or a soap opera.
No one's ever heard of.
She was a
and no
soap
one cares
opera
about.
actress.
Yeah.
No one knew how she was until she came to America and did a big, huge friggin' movie.
So it's a Hollywood actor, is what you're talking
Yes,
about.
somebody
but-
who's like $10 million a movie. If
Hollywood.
if Joe Schmo does Full Frontal, doesn't matter. If Jim Carrey did Full Frontal or Jason Segel did Full Frontal in one of his movies, it was a big deal because it's Jason Segel. He's a TV actor. He's a comedian.
He's an
it was
American
odd. It was
TV
weird.
actor. But here's the thing I'm trying to get across, and I feel like it's that meme where it's like, oh, you're so close. Americans are really uptight about nudity, and Hollywood, being an American institution, is also uptight about nudity. So you're making my argument for me, I think, by accident.
No. Because I know what you're saying. Yes, the country has regulations and whatever.
I'm not talking about
But it's
regulations. I'm talking about cultural expectations and norms.
But you don't think you think we have an issue with nudity in this country? I mean, you have 100 movies a year coming out with a shit ton of nudity. It's the A-list actors that do it makes it a big deal. It's not the nudity that's the big deal. It's the fact that Goldie Hawn did it.
But if the
She's never
nudity
done it before.
wasn't a big deal inherently, you wouldn't care about Goldie Hawn doing it.
But it would be a big deal for someone who doesn't do it.
But why wouldn't they do it unless it was a thing that
Because
they're
maybe
not
they
supposed
spent
to
their
do?
life as a Disney actress.
Because
Or maybe
it's-
they spent their life
or
doing
maybe it's
stand-up comedy.
because it's a cultural thing. the
Yeah.
reason why they never did it before.
But I mean, that's
or
the
maybe
thing.
they
that's
were
like,
above it. They felt they were above nudity in the movie. So when they did it, it was a big deal.
Yeah, they finally lowered themselves to our level or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. All
if
this
it's
is just
lowering.
there's a. Well, you said they were above it, and so if they were above
No,
it,
in
and
their
now
mind,
they've done it, they've lowered themselves.
In their mind, they're above it. So they're not going to do that. Why should I do that? I'm already an established actress. I don't have to do the casting couch bullshit. I don't have to do nudity to make myself famous. I'm already famous. I have 2 Oscars. If that's not uptight, that's I'm a $10-15 million movie actress. I don't need to do nudity, but the script is really good. I might get an Oscar for playing this prostitute. All of a sudden, Elizabeth Shue is showing full frontal in a movie. She wins an Oscar for being a prostitute, and it's a big deal because that's the chick from Karate Kid who you never thought you would have seen naked. I know what you're saying. There's an uptightness in this country because we, whatever. But to me, if there's a shit ton of people that are naked and you don't even know their first name, it doesn't matter because they're always going to be 3rd, 4th tier actresses showing some whatever. But when Sharon Stone did it, it was a big deal. So even if you didn't see her with her legs open, but she did a lot of nudity in the movie, but you never saw that part of her. Even when she opened her legs, it was kind of blacked out and you couldn't really see. It still would have been an iconic thing to do that because most women didn't do that in a movie, other than shit you could rent at an behind the curtain,
Or in Germany.
Or
France.
And for your argument in Germany, there's a large amount of movies made in Europe that are terrible, but people rent them and buy them because they have nudity in them, and they're just terrible movies.
Okay, so can I maybe give you guys some perspective here? Dan, I don't know if you realize this, but when you say we're uptight about that, then that is kind of giving our uptightness a negative connotation. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. Travis, would you rather have your country be uptight about it, and then when it happens, it's special?
I don't care either way. I was just trying
to... Okay, because I feel like maybe the uptightness is what makes it exciting for us. Right?
I think the mystery is what makes it exciting.
Exactly.
Right. The mystery of that person.
Exactly.
Of that person.
And
not because
the mystery,
we can't see boobies.
Well, like, the uptightness is...
You want to see boobies, you can see them everywhere.
Listen, the uptightness...
We're not that uptight.
The uptightness is... I believe the uptightness exists. I don't necessarily know if it's a bad thing or not. Because do I want to see that in every single movie? No, I don't need that. Like, I don't like it in every single movie.
Right.
It cheapens it. Like, that's why I don't like foreign movies. It's like nudity everywhere. It's cheap over there. Like, it's they put it out there because it's normal because they're not uptight about it. But it's just fucking, it's like, bleh.
No clothes on anybody. Sickening. Cool, firecrackers.
Everyone's naked, so who gives a fuck? I don't want that. I want the nobody's naked, so when someone's naked, wow, that's what I want. So I think that...
And to me, I'm thinking, okay...
The phenomenon that Dan is talking about exists, but I don't mind that it exists.
No, I know it exists, but I'm saying it's not special because of that. It's special because it's Halle Berry. It's special because it's Sharon Stone. It's not special because Joanne is taking her shirt off in a movie. That's what I'm saying.
Dan, you're right. Travis is not getting it.
No, he's not getting it. And it's okay. We only have so much time and so much hard drive space, so we might have to move on.
But you're not getting
Explain to me what I'm not getting.
The thing you're I think, and I'm just, let's put a pin in that conversation specifically, but if we're still talking about Basic Instinct, I find it interesting that movie has, off the top of my head, at least 2 very explicit softcore sex scenes.
Yes.
That involve murder. And people get upset because she's uncrossed her legs for a second. And that's the scene that people remember. I mean, guys, this is what I'm trying to get to. It's not just the nudity. It's the fact that we reacted that way to the nudity, but also like she kills that dude in a graphic fashion.
Hypocrisy is a totally different conversation, and that you're 100% right. There. Yes, that would be silly to be mad about the
and also
open
like,
shot.
We know that that her murdering someone on film is not real, but
No,
right.
but the
So
violence,
that's like yeah,
you wanna go that
whatever.
route.
Yeah, fake violence on film. We see that every day. But like it would be one thing if she was wearing like a prosthetic and did that and opened
Right.
her legs. It's like, well,
You mean like Dirk Diggler?
what I'm saying is if yeah, exactly. What I'm saying is you could compare the two if she was wearing a prosthetic. No one would be excited to see a fake.
You know, they wear merkins all the time in today's Hollywood. Well, on TV, right? Because there's no full frontal in movies because of the MPAA or whatever. But HBO shows on pay cable and Netflix and those, you'll see a lot of merkins, which are exactly what you're crudely describing. It's basically a wig.
I don't
for
know
your-
what a merkin is.
It's a wig for your pubic region.
It's a dickie for your dickie.
So, I mean, you didn't know maybe that was a thing, but that is
no, I
actually a
didn't
thing.
at all.
Pretty common nowadays because of the way the world is at the moment.
Interesting.
So
But yeah, it's apples to oranges.
It's
Fake
just-
murder versus real.
it's
all I'm
interesting
saying.
that yeah, it's just interesting that, we in this country are like, oh, hey, watched a movie where only 200 people got shot and blown up with bombs in a crazy action-packed thing where I was actually cheering for the guy doing most of the killing, but like it did show a pair of boobies. So it
Yeah.
better get an R rating.
I would run from that person because that's not special. It's not. It doesn't seem something to write home about. So what? There's nudity in the movie. It's not special. True?
I don't know. I don't
know.
feel like you've given me enough to true or false that.
Nudity in an American movie is not special.
I mean, it is and it isn't.
It is these
It's
days,
really not.
man.
Depends on what it. Depends on what.
Well,
it is.
these days, maybe. Because everything is whined about. But we're talking about back when this came out, there's nudity everywhere.
There was a distinct lack of nudity. I mean, really,
In the 90s?
in the mid to late 90s, it starts to slow down. And since then, the PG-13 thing has really kicked in. But it's weird because as nudity in movies has calmed down, nudity on pay TV has like ramped up real high.
What's funny is when I was a kid, PG got you boobs and curse words. And then PG-13 was like worse than R sometimes because they were pushing envelopes. And then PG-13 changed to like,
You get
Nickelodeon.
one F word and some cleavage.
yeah.
And if you go any further than that, you're no longer PG-13. It's weird. I don't expect us to come to answers, but I think it is interesting too.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think like a Julianne Moore getting naked is way more special than Joe Bob Smith getting pregnant.
I agree.
Getting naked.
That's
why I always thought
I
that was
agree with
special.
both of you.
I almost run screaming from people who are like, "Oh, that's that scene. That's the Basic Instinct scene. It's taboo."
I kind of
like,
feel
really.
like it's like you don't get it.
It's
You're
not
just-
taboo. What?
No. I'm saying that person doesn't get it.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
it's just
to me. That's not why it was.
or like
looked at
the
as-
person's like, you got to see this movie. This person gets naked. It's
Right.
like get out of here with that.
But that did happen. Like in Swordfish, Halle Berry did a topless sunning scene
Mm-hmm.
before she did Monsters Ball, where she had a sex scene. But this was Halle Berry from the '90s, who was like kind of pretty prudish, and all of a sudden she's doing a topless scene in Swordfish. So guys went with their girlfriends because the girls wanted to see Hugh Jackman, and the guys were like, "Oh my God, Halle Berry's finally doing something," which she would never have done the first 10 years of her career.
Right.
So it was a big deal, not because it was nudity, but because it was Halle Berry nudity.
I think there's a lot more to unpack there. That maybe we should
You
just
think?
let's just hop off here and just say that last thing you said. Just think about that for a week, and we'll talk next week.
I don't even know what that means.
I know.
Was there something wrong with that?
No, there's nothing wrong with it. You just, I get what you're both are saying. Like Dan is like, what you're saying is proving his point.
Okay.
And if you can't see that, it's fine. It is what it is.
I'm taking his point as the people, the religious right that were protesting movies that have
No,
have nudity
no,
in
it's
them.
just cultural.
No, different levels of cultural. You have the religious right that are protesting because there's a nipple in a movie, and then you have the people that are protesting because it's too much nudity.
You have all kinds of
and then you have people who are like, it's nudity, but I was not thinking of those people when I said that it was special, and that's why Basic Instinct made the big deal that it made was because
we're
it
not
should have just
we're
been
not
a
talking
Cinemax
about
movie.
those far those
All right, can we just trash
prudish-
this episode and throw it away?
we're not talking about those prudish
Fucking
people
A,
either.
man.
We're talking about the culture. Like the culture
The
collectively.
culture in America?
Yeah, it's America's
Really?
like really filled with lots of very different
Where you
people.
can wear like a see-through dress at church and be commemorated.
I don't. What?
That new culture we're talking about?
I don't know that anyone's
No,
ever
I'm
worn a
just talking
see-through
about-
dress to church and God.
I'm saying like the culture today is so
I'm saying a thing that's completely
sexualized.
made up that I don't know, man. I mean, it's just interesting. It's all interesting.
I don't know. I'd rather live in a culture where nudity is special. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
And the culture is that way. It is that way.
No, it is.
Like
to an extent.
Like way more than it is in Europe. Here, it's just like that's kind of like almost common knowledge. I knew that since I was a kid.
Absolutely.
Like we don't have nude beaches
100%.
here
Yes.
very much.
You're
They
right.
have it all over there.
Is it true that French babes don't shave their pits?
Some don't.
But they got nude beaches.
Not in the winter.
Like
I understand that.
there's like tits on TV commercials over there.
Yes.
Like, you know, like it's just culturally it's different here.
Mhm.
But that's okay. I mean, Dan is saying it one way and I'm saying it's I'm agreeing that it exists, but I don't mind it cuz it's special.
Okay.
I don't know. All right, very good. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, next week ought to be lit.